Hello and welcome to the Oddschecker betting show. I'm your host, George Elek, and this is a Clarence House preview looking ahead to the racing at Ascot and Haydock on Saturday. On this episode, hear who Andy Holding and Ed Quigley think will come out on top in the titanic battle between Shishkin and Energumene.
I mean, we were robbed of this potential clash, weren't we, last season in the Arkle. Look, I hope we just see a really good race and it's as big a spectacle as what we hope for.
I mean, if it's a ding-dong battle, which we want to see, there's not much between them. This is a race to save them.
Andy's confident to predict a 5-2 shot will go off much shorter against a well-fancied 8-11 favourite at Haydock.
Don't get how they bet 4 to 6, 5 to 2 here. I'd have these a lot shorter.
And stay tuned for the very end for a couple of horses that Andy thinks could go well at Lingfield on Sunday, including one he expects to frank the Constitution Hill form.
He's come out of those two races with a mark of 117. If there's a better handicapped horse in that race, I haven't come across it. So
today we're going to be previewing the weekend ahead of racing, including Clarence House. We're going to be looking to Ascot, we're going to be looking to Haydock, and we're going to be doing so with two expert guests who we haven't spoken to for a while. So I'm going to wish you both Happy New Year. I hope you had a great Christmas. I know it's the 20th of January, but having not spoken since before Christmas, I think we're still allowed to say that. First, it is Oddschecker's very own tipster, Andy Holding. Andy, how has January been so far for you, both on a personal level and, of course, from your column and your punting perspective as well?
Personally, I feel a lot healthier than I was going into Christmas.
You're looking good.
I'm kicking in a new regime as I'm sort of going on the back nine of my lifespan, as it were. Decided to cut out quite a few things and do a little bit of running and cardio stuff. I got one of those new Garmin watches for Christmas.
Good for the golf that as well.
Yeah, monitors heart rate and cardio stuff. So I'm managing to do at least 3 2K runs every single week and 1 or 2 bits and pieces in the house as well. So feeling a bit better. And yeah, the results not too bad. January, I'm touching up my total, but January's going very much on the same plane as December. Managing to find at least 1 or 2 winners each day. Chugging along, as it were, and doing okay. So hopefully we can maintain that through to the weekend.
Out of interest, what's been cut out of the diet? Because I'm somebody who, I seem to go on a new diet every week. So I'm interested to know what's working so well.
Not so much bread and carbs and pasta and stuff like that.
Pasta though, so good.
I know it's a killer. It's part of the diet that you just know is not good for you, but you just can't avoid it half the time because it's kind of there. A lot less alcohol as well. I'm not a big drinker anyway, but you have the cheeky little red here and a little beer here, then everywhere. So just generally just not cutting down, dramatically, but not overindulging and just I don't know, just trying to do the right things anyway.
Well, second guest is a man who's never had to think about dieting in his life. It is Ed Quigley, of course, with that jawline. Ed, how are things going for you? Are you having a healthy January as well?
You couldn't be further from the truth there, George. But yeah, no, I'm on day 20 of dry January. Obviously, nice. Flood February follows, so that's going to be the problem. But no, I'm not quite. I was running loads last year and half marathons and stuff, but no, I'm not. Haven't done anything like that. I'm not keeping my own speed figures on myself, shall we say, like Andy is. But no, I'm no doubt in the summer I'll get back to the running. But yeah, in terms of punting, pretty quiet generally. I'm more. I'm just having bets for the festival now, really. With anything I think is a rick or any angle in, really. I'm kind of topping up those, but it's generally a quiet month, and obviously, but we've got the Clarence House Chase meeting, Haydock, Lingfield, good action as well, and then obviously it's Cheltenham Trials Day next week. So after a little bit of a lull, it all starts to come thick and fast again.
Yeah, there is some cracking racing at Lingfield on Sunday. I'll ask you both if you've got any fancies just at the end, but this is an Ascot and Haydock podcast. I'm now, after what you said there, Ed, I'm now envisaging Andy getting in from his run and lining up the two screens and having his two runs, his 2K runs from that week, and doing the sectionals for each and working out how
Funny
he can
should say that. Not quite to that extent, George, but yeah, courtesy of the stopwatches gizmos, you can actually see whether you've gone quicker than you did last time out. I broke my own record this morning, so that's going on the right track.
Great stuff. I mean, we could talk about that all day, but we better get into the racing. But before we get into the action, I want to let you know of a brand new podcast and YouTube show from oddschecker called Racing Weekly. Racing Weekly is hosted by ITV Racing's Rishi Persad and 5-time tipster of the year, Sam Turner, as they take a 360-degree view of the sport that we all love. Each week, the chaps will be reviewing the weekend's racing just gone, looking forward to the week ahead and tackling the biggest stories in the sport in the build-up to the Cheltenham Festival. Racing Weekly will be out every Monday on YouTube and wherever you download your podcasts. Just search for Racing Weekly oddschecker or find it in the link description of this show. I'm absolutely buzzing for that. Two great men, Rishi and Sam, and they know everything about this sport and looking forward to catching up on what's going on there every week in the run-up to the festival. Let's get cracking with Ascot then, and we're going to skip over the 12.35 because there aren't any prices yet there in that juvenile hurdle. But the 110, the SBK handicap chase, Cat Tiger is the 5-2 favourite ahead of Didero Vallis at 5-1, Winds of Fire 5-1, Downtown Getaway 11-2, Defi Sacre 8-1, Lebroy 11-1, Combalobo 12-1, 14-1 bar. These prices all coming to you from the oddschecker app. So the best prices available. You can also find the best place terms, bookie offers, free bets, and the best tipsters in the game there as well. And Andy will come to you first. The first race we're previewing in 2022.
Yeah, a tricky one to get a head around first. I'd have strong opinions in some of the other races we're going to be covering. A general rule of thumb, I don't know if Ed's the same, but when I see a Mr. D Maxwell at the top of any market, I'm always looking straight away to take that on, unless I feel as though it's got a big enough chance to offset his slight foibles in the plate. I think he'd be his own worst enemy, wouldn't he, or his own critic, let's say, Dave Maxwell. He certainly knows his limitations. That goes without saying. The horse has got a perfectly respectable chance on what he's done, but like I say, factored in, Dave's not the most elegant in the saddle, let's say. He wouldn't do for me at the prices. Right down the foot of the weight, so I'd probably go here with a young horse called Winds of Fire, one of Evan Williams's. Evan's been a little bit slow out of the block since the New Year's turn, but there are signs that he's becoming a little bit more reliable in the last week or two. And he's got a nice horse here who finished third in a 4-runner race last time out at Taunton, but that was quite a hot little contest. Lord Accord, the winner, very highly regarded by Neil Mulholland. Jeremy's Pass, likewise, as well, for the Nicol Stable in second. And this horse has only just come out of the battle with those two in the latter stages. He clearly goes really well right-handed. He likes soft ground. He stays well. He's got a lovely attitude. And being one of the most unexposed members of the party, I tend to go with these young horses if I possibly can in a race of this nature, where a lot of these are, been around the block a little bit and perhaps aren't improving at a rapid rate or not. So around about 5-1, as you say, for Winds of Fire, he'd be where I'd start, or my starting point anyway, for a race like that.
Winds of Fire 5-1 at the moment with William Hill best price. Ed, how do you see this?
Oh, I don't know how to see it, to be honest with you. Yeah, this is very, very tricky. A lot of out-sorts individuals in here. It has to be said, if you're scratching around for form. So it's Downtown Getaway, won last time out, as form at the course. But this is arguably a bit tougher on paper. I don't know. I mean, it's getting to last chance saloon with Lebroy, isn't it, for the Ben Pauling team? He's a horse who just seems to keep letting me down or letting punters down generally. But he's a double-figure price here. He's got the blinkers on for the first time, and just wonder if they could have the desired effect. He's dangerously well treated off 132. I mean, this was the winner of the National Hunt Chase at the Cheltenham Festival many moons ago. He's got a touch of class despite his advancing years. And as I said, he was rated 150 at his peak, gets in here off 132. Luca Morgan claiming another £5 off his back. I mean, he's going to feel like he's running loose if the blinkers work and he kind of rekindle any of the old fires, if you like. So in a race without any strong convictions, my tentative each way play, providing we get at least 8 go to post, Lebroy around 11-1 would probably do for me. But it is getting to that kind of stage with him where if he can't show anything of this type of mark with the headgear doing something for him, then they might start thinking about drawing stumps. But there's no denying, even on the form of a year ago or so, he's very well treated. Yeah,
Lebroy there, 11-1. And I do feel like, Ed, you're an absolute sucker for those Ben Pauling horses that we've seen do so well in the past. They pop up at a big price. You know they have the ability, and certainly Lebroy here if back to his best, will make a mockery of that 11-1 price. On then to the 145, the Holloway's handicap hurdle, where Gary Claremont is the 4-1 favourite ahead of Unexpected Party at 5-1, Stella Magic 11-2, Fidu Dairy 8-1, Smurf Yankee 9-1, Kateson and Sonagino 10-1, 14-1, bar the rest. Eddie found the last one tricky. Is this an easier one for you to tackle?
I'm not sure if it is, but one thing I would say is that the horse, and I did the tissue for this, and the bottom weight on your cards is Sonagino for Cobden and Nichols. I'm surprised to see he's double figures. Personally, I had him a lot shorter. I had him around a kind of 11-2, 6-1 poke in here. I mean, he's totally unexposed as a 5-year-old. There's a few in here. You kind of know where you are with them. You know, horses that have been around the block, a long time. This is an unexposed 5-year-old, very lightly raced, and he showed promise in the listed race, didn't he, at Haydock on his penultimate start. And then the wheels came off a little bit at Doncaster last time out. It had a very awkward high head carriage in the closing stages. Interesting that Connections have put the tongue tie on. I mean, if that was the issue and perhaps the horse swallowed his tongue or there's a slight little breathing problem, that can make the difference. I mean, this horse has just got so much potential still. It's only his third start for the Paul Nicholls team, for crying out now. It's not like he's an exposed handicapper. He's been dropped £3 for that to a mark of 125. And just in a race where, as I said, there's a few in here, we kind of, they've got no secrets from the handicapper, to put it, it's the clearest phrase I could do. This is a horse I'm be very surprised if we've seen the best of. And looking at his pedigree as well, it's worth noting he steps up in trip. So if that tongue tie works, he can switch off, he can settle. He's off bottom weight. He's lightly raced, and I think the trip will bring about further improvement. So it's at the prices really. If you said he was 9-2, I probably wouldn't even look at him. But I'm surprised he's as big as 10-1.
Everything has a price, as we know. 10-1, Sonagino, the one for Ed's. Andy?
I think the market's got this absolutely bang on. I'd have Gary Claremont in favourite and Unexpected Party in second favourite, and I expect one of those to win. I think Gary Claremont is probably the right one at the top of the market on balance, because obviously his Ascot form, he was a good second there at the time before, and of course third in the big race at Ascot just before the Christmas period, where he stayed on quite nicely on the run in to finish third behind Tritonic. I don't think it was a vintage win all of that race. One or two fancied horses done to achieve, such as No Ordinary Joe, pulled too hard, and West Cork didn't back up his run in the Greatwood. But because he does like the track and he's stepping up to a distance that he won over last year, I think 2.5 is going to suit him better than 2, then he's probably the one to beat. But I do think, as I mentioned, that Unexpected Party is also capable of perhaps a little bit better than what he showed in his last 2 runs, albeit they've been very good runs. That race beyond Gower Road was a well-contested contest. He kind of travelling strongly at the last. He just got out pointed by a horse who quickened up really well on the day. The back-end sectionals for that race were really good. And then he went to Weatherby the other day, heavily backed. I think he was 5-4 in the morning, went off 8-13. Looked as though he was going to win, pulling a cart going down to the last. I think he traded massive odds on him running. Harry Skelton kind of like was looking to make sure at the last, and in doing so, he reined the horse back, lost a bit of momentum, and the other horse, the Brimming Water of Sam Drinkwaters, came and picked his pocket. I think if Harry would have ridden that race again, he would have been a little bit more aggressive. And that was definitely one that got away. It was like one of those races where you think, how on earth has that lost? So despite the handicapper recognising that fact as well and putting him up for losing, I still think a mark of 130 is very workable. I like the way he travels through his races. It means he should arrive there travelling going well, 2 out. So at the very worst, I can't see Unexpected Party not being involved. So if you can get an each way bet on him, he would be the way I'd go in that race.
Yeah, 2 firms, best price at the moment. Unexpected Party, you've got Paddy Power, who are a 5th to 3, 5-1, and Betfair Sportsbook, who are a 5th to 4 at 5-1. So you're getting your money back if Unexpected Party finishes 2nd, 3rd, or 4th, and obviously picking up the jackpot if Unexpected Party lands the party and wins the race at 5-1. On then to the 220, the Mares Hurdle, the Grade 2, and Western Victory and Molly's Ollie's Wishes are the 5-2 joint favourites ahead of My Sister Sarah at 11-4, and trappy top end of the market. Anything for Love 10-1, White Hot Chili Filly 16-1, and Impressive Lady 20-1. Andy.
Yeah, a lot depends on the ground conditions here and how bad it does get. Ascot particularly Anne Swinley Bottom, can get quite poached, and it is always a test of stamina turning for home once they hit the hill. And if it becomes a battle of wills and who's got the biggest heart, there's no doubt for me that Western Victory will probably overcome or outrun quite a few of its rivals. She's a horse I know really well from her days with Declan Quilly over in Ireland. I've seen her run 100 times, and she's been just a very, very reliable source in these kind of events. She's not quite up to sort of, the very, very highest grade in Ireland. She tends to run against some of the best. She got found out a couple of runs ago in a good listed race at Punchestown, but easing in grade last time out when the ground became testing at Clonmel. She put up a really dogged performance. Minx Tiara, who overtook her turning for home, looked as though she was going to win a mile a minute, and then re-rallying, Western Victory came back very strongly on the run-in, and in the end won quite comfortably. That was over 3 miles on testing ground. She's actually got the speed to win over 2, but like I say, she's very commendable with regards all distances. And now she's joined Emma Lavelle. I don't see that as being a backward step. Emma Lavelle does really well with her mares and fillies, as we saw with was it Voice of Calm the other day at Newbury. The yard's in great form in general. Young Butler won at Plumpton the other day, and Acora Claire Surf won last Saturday as well. So that team's rocking and rolling in a really positive manner. So I think that's a really good move to have her or acquire her in a latter part of her career. But yeah, she comes in great nick, and I think she's the right favourite. And as I said, a real stiff test round Ascot really suits us. So Western Victory for me there.
Western Victory 5-2 with 365, and as you can see, with those three so tight at the top, 5-2, 5-2, 11-4, Andy definitely taking the view that Western Victory is the most likely of the three. Ed, how do you see it?
I'll be towards the top of the market again, but I'd probably on balance be with Ollie's wishes. The ground will be important to her. I mean, she's got the bulk of her best forms come on a very soft surface. In fact, I think all her career wins have come on soft, other than at Wetherby in that listed race where they called it good to soft, but I mean, they were coming home in different postcodes. So, I think ground conditions will definitely be in her favour. It was a mixture of, she was totally outclassed behind Buzz last time out, and the ground was far too quick for her on that occasion relative to what she really likes. I mean, she ploughed through the mud when she won best part of 20 lengths the time she won at Warwick. It was absolutely bottomless. Look, it's not going to be that at Ascot, but it's going to be really gluey, tacky ground. I think, there's been a lot of frost around, a lot of kind of dank weather. And this will take some getting. She's got form over 3 miles, winning form on soft ground over 3. It's a very trappy encounter. You can make a case for quite a few in here, but she's got a touch of class. Ground conditions should be to her favour. We know she stays. And again, it's a very sensitive one. The market, I just disagree with the market on the previous race we were previewing. I actually think this is pretty much spot on, and I think you can kind of throw a blanket over the top 2, possibly 3, and she would be my tentative vote.
Ollie's wishes 5-2. That is with Sky Bet best price. Both Western Victory and Ollie's wishes 2-1 elsewhere. So those two getting much bigger prices if you shop around using oddschecker. On to the 255, the Bet365 handicap chase, where Palmer's Hill is a 3-1 favourite ahead of Fanion Destraval at 5-1, Phoenix Way 6-1, Killer Clown 6-1, Golden Whiskey 8-1, Armada Nui 8-1, Night in Dubai 9-1, and Larry 14-1. Dead 8 runners here, Ed. How you agreed with the market in the last, you disagreed with the one before. How do you see this?
I pretty much agree with the market here. I mean, first of all, on the bigger picture, it's fascinating that Fanion Destraval lines up in this assignment, I think, George, to try and defy, BHA rating of 159. That's going to be some tall order in a handicap, it has to be said. So, I thought they would have looked at a pattern race, perhaps, a graded contest at Ascot next month, isn't there? Or I'm sure there's other options, or even thought about a crack going over to Ireland on a bit of soft ground. But I think, Palmer's Hill would be who I go with here. I think you're right, George, around the 3-1 market leader. Arrives here on a hat trick. It's been going through the gears, a bit of a late bloomer for the John Joe team, it has to be said. 9 years young now, kind of second spell over fences, but it's really clicked. Won really nicely here last time out, over 2 miles 3 furlongs, or an extended 2 miles 2 to be technical. Power clear in the closing stages, jumped to travel well, gone up to 142. But I think this extra distance return to this trip will help bring out even more improvement. The horse just really seems to have his mojo. I think it's worth noting as well. So just a horse who's been turned inside out. Again, lots of form of cutting the ground. That won't be an issue. And Look, it's worth posting. This is a really good race. You know, we've been talking about a lot of these handicap chases where they're out of sorts individuals and a lot of them scratching around for form. Well, Fanny and Destraval, Palmer's Hill, More Than a Wee, Killer Clown, Golden Whiskey all arrive here on the back of wins. So it's a lot of horses in fine fettle. It's a very competitive race, but playing the percentages, you know, Fanny and Destraval really is kind of setting up the weights here for a lot of these. And yeah, I would be with Palmer's Hill.
Palmer's Hill for John Joe O'Neill and John Joe O'Neill Jr. There, 3-1 favourites. Andy?
Yeah, as a rule of thumb, George, I try and avoid chase races on a Saturday when I'm tipping if I possibly can. I find a lot of them are very difficult to work out pre-race, and you only see how the race develops, you know, when you get a flavour and a picture of how they're jumping, they're travelling, their track positions, and you know, knowing all those details beforehand is always difficult to fathom. Well, I think the hurdle races tend to be a little bit more, you know, they tend to go with a little bit more symmetry. So, but if you do like your handicap chases, then you've certainly got a couple of nice competitive ones here at Ascot, including this 255. Lots of horses coming in good form. I've got a bit of time for. Ed's already touched upon the one, which I certainly wouldn't disagree with any way, shape or form. You know, course form is always worth its weight in gold. The one I quite like is Golden Whiskey down the bottom. I'm tipping 2 Evan Williams horses here today. So I'm hoping the yard comes in good form. Otherwise, I'm sunk. He beat a good horse last time out, or an improving horse called When You're Ready, at Chepstow. That horse was very well fancied off the back of a win at the track the time before. But the time figure that race was really good for the grade. So I kind of went back and watched the race again. I love the way that Golden Whiskey went through the race. He travelled really strong. I thought he won on merit. And it's interesting looking at his career as well. He goes really well in small fields. He's never won in a sort of double figure field. So only 8 runners going to post here, or certainly at time recording. That'll suit him more than most. He goes well right-handed, left-handed. That's not a problem. I try to look for a chink in his armoury on that score. Couldn't find it. And he likes soft ground, and he's got in here off a lightweight. So yeah, I thought, was it 8-1 for him? I think I've seen 8-1. Yeah. For Golden Whiskey. Yeah, he'd strike me as being a fair each way bet.
Yeah, 8-1 Golden Whiskey, as you say, Andy, there in the 255. On to the race. I think everybody who loves this great game is looking forward to seeing. It's the matchup we probably didn't expect to see until the festival itself. We've been waiting for one of them to come out over the past week or so, but as of 5:30 on Thursday, the 20th of January, which is the time right now, both Shishkin and Energumene will line up in the Clarence House Chase. Shishkin is 8-11, Energumene is 7-4, First Flow is 11-1, and Amula Gold is 100-1. Andy, we've spoken many times in this podcast about the merits of these two, but mainly in relation to the Cheltenham Festival and what that might bring. Ascot is, of course, a whole nother ball game. How do you see these two shaping up? Do you think Shishkin, who's probably who is the more proven of the two, but Energumene, who knows how good he is? Do you think the prices at the moment are right?
Yeah, I do, George. Yeah, I mean, we were robbed of this potential clash, weren't we, last season in the Arkle? And of course, Shishkin went on to take it in the absence of Energumene, who met with the setback. And we thought we were going to have to wait a year on to find out who's the best. But we've got them pre-Cheltenham this year, which is great. It's very sporting of both sets of connections. You know, who would have thought it? That they both decided to roll the dice. I hope we just don't get an Altior surname situation where both of them are punch drunk and then they don't show their form for the thick end of a year, which happened with those two horses. Unfortunately, they were never quite the same afterwards. Of the two, I much prefer Shishkin. That doesn't mean to say that I'm in any way detrimental to Energumene's chances, because he's probably going to, in a tactical race, get the run of the race out front. I'd imagine he'll lead. I mean, the First Flow can, if he wanted to, bustle up the second favourite, but I'd imagine that would be compromising his own chance, arguably trying to chase a very hot pace. But I think it'll allow Nico de Boinville to ride a nice race. I think he'll just race off the inside. Energumene will go around the inner. He'll probably have Paul Town and no less than a length or a couple of lengths in his rangefinder throughout. And as we saw at Kempton, I mean, once he turned into into the straight and the turbo kicked in, because he did look in trouble at the Sunbury venue for a stride or two on the home turn. I mean, he's left really good horses completely and utterly for dead. I mean, Sky Pirate, as we saw the other day, is no mug. He was trying to give 2 stone to an improving horse of Shishkin. And Grenadine's winner of Tingle Creek, and he made him look absolutely pedestrian. So I think this horse is a real Rolls Royce. And yeah, if you're an odds-on favourite backer, then 4 to 6. I've certainly seen worse bets in what looks ostensibly a head-to-head fight. So yeah, that'd be the way I'd be going. I hope we just see a really good race, and they jump round cleanly. They get there at the second last. The crowd really gets excited, and it's as big a spectacle as what we hope for. But I think Shishkin is just likely to prove he's too good.
In your view, how would you see the course basically suiting which? I mean, would you see Energumene or Shishkin more likely to win at Ascot over Cheltenham? Who do you think has the benefit on Saturday?
Well, they're both strong stays at the trip. I mean, Energumene, he's won at Leopardstown over 2 mile 1 last season, clocked a very good number. Shishkin's times are slightly better, but his times actually could have got better because he hasn't been extended in the races where he's run out of competition to take him as far as his engine will go. I don't really know how good he can be, Shishkin. I think it's going to set it up perfectly for him to almost run a career high because he's finally got a horse who's capable of going as far as he'll dare as well in Energumene. So they're really going to be stretching each other, and they're going to be finding each other out. I can't wait to see how the race develops in the latter stages. But as I said, I think Shishkin has just got that extra 5th gear to go into at the back end of his race. Like I say, he did it last year at Cheltenham in the Arkle. Once he met the rising ground, once he got into top gear at Kempton, we saw what he was capable of, and I think that'll be the case again when he turns for home and faces that Berkshire stiff hit climb to the line.
Shishkin 8 to 11, the one for Andy. Something's got to give here, Ed, in this titanic battle between the two. And the great thing about it is, as well as that we know, all being well, with both horses getting around safely, this is just the first fight. There's going to be a rematch coming up on the horizon as well, in what should hopefully be a rivalry that spreads forward well beyond this season. Who do you fancy between these two in their first match up against each other?
Well, in answer to your question, I'm with Team Shishkin. I'd echo a lot of what Andy's saying there. But come back to your first point, though. I actually, just an angle I'm going through here. If Shishkin absolutely does just wipe the floor with Energumene, just for argument's sake, wins 8 lengths. I noticed Energumene's got an entry in the Ryanair Chase. I wonder whether connections and then we're looking at kind of boxing rematch clauses here with Shishkin and Energumene, whether they may just say, well, sod it and go up to the Ryanair, which if you take Allaho out of the equation, who didn't exactly sparkle in the John Durkan, albeit winning it last time out, that looks a very modest bunch in behind. So, I mean, that's a chat for another day. But I just wonder here, I just think Shishkin, he's just got that X factor about him, hasn't he? I mean, you can argue we don't really know how good Energumene is. We kind of say that this test will bring out the best of Shishkin. You could argue it bring out the best of Energumene as well. I think tactics will also be interesting. Obviously, in the Peterborough Chase last time out in regards to first flow, they rode him a lot more patiently, obviously, to try and get the trip over that angle, coming back to 2 on soft ground, back in his home patch, if you like. I wonder if the first flow could go forward and almost become a little bit of a spoiler for Energumene, or the two might end up beating each other up. Essentially, whichever way I kind of sliced the tactical scenario of this contest, I just keep coming back to Shishkin. And I've mentioned this on a couple of other shows recently, George. There's this, what I perceive as a false narrative out there in regards to the ground and Shishkin. I think it's because when Nicky Henderson first had him, he said, oh, he's a beautiful mover. He wants a sound surface. The facts in the form book would actually suggest otherwise. I mean, it absolutely lashed it down at Kempton before we won over the Christmas period, as Andy alludes to. I mean, he stuffed the Tingle Creek winner 10 lengths. The ground was plenty soft enough that day. I think it was officially soft heavy in places the day he won a Supreme Novices. There's no problem at all with this horse going on ground with giving it. All this, so he must have an absolute road to run on. That's just absolute mythology, to be honest with you. So I've got no concerns in that regard. Shishkin to win for me. But a bigger picture will be, I mean, if it's a ding-dong battle, which we want to see, there's not much between them, roll on the rematch in 8 weeks' time. But it is interesting. Energumene does have that Ryanair Chase entry. No, we're looking further afield here. But at least it is an option or something to bear in mind. That if Energumene did get put in his place here, they may consider going elsewhere in the aftermath. But anyway, let's enjoy this weekend first. This is a race to save, albeit the 4 runners, but I expect Shishkin to come out on top.
Two team Shishkins there. I have a feeling Energumene might make it a bit trickier, but I guess if you are backing that 7-4, you're kind of doing it assuming less form in the book, it must be said, in terms of horses beaten. Shishkin 8-11, the view of the two experts. So we will see. It's going to be incredibly exciting to see those two matching up for the first time. And as I say, I hope it's going to be the beginning of a long rivalry rather than seeing Energumene rerouted to avoid Shishkin come the festival. But we will see. So with that brings our Ascot preview to a close. But we're going to look at the racing at Haydock as well, and the three races, the 1:25, the 2 o'clock, and the 2:35, starting with the Sky Bet Supreme Trial Rossington Novice Hurdle. John Bond turns up here at 4-9 ahead of Mai Tai at 11-2, Richmond Lake 9-1, 20-1 Bar. We'll use this, Andy, as just a quick chat because we've spoken about the Supreme a lot on this show over the past few months. And since we last spoke, we've seen an amazing Tolworth win from Constitution Hill. We saw Dysart Dynamo last week absolutely hose up over in Ireland. That means the Supreme market now has a very different look to how it did previously, with Constitution Hill 11-4 favourite, Dysart Dynamo 7-2 alongside John Bond, with Cigar Hard 9-1. So three very cozy at the top end. And I guess we're going to learn a lot about just how good John Bond is, given Mai Tai is the opponent here, who, of course, we saw Constitution Hill beat very cozily a couple of months ago. So where do you stand at the moment, both in terms of the opener and that first Tuesday in March, or the first day of the festival in March, and how do you see this one going in terms of the prices on Saturday?
Well, prior to Dysart Dynamo winning the Moscow Flood the other day, I would have said that Constitution Hill had no chance of being usurped at the top of our speed figure chart with that run, not in the Tolworth, but the previous one when he beat Mai Tai. That still remains his fastest time figure when he really quickened up that day off the strong pace. They didn't go quite as quick in the Tolworth, and I didn't think actually he had to beat a stellar field, even though it was a grade one. I still think his Mai Tai performance was the best one. I think Mai Tai would have finished second in the Tolworth as well if he would have gone in it. But he still remains the one to beat for me in the Supreme. But the Johnny come lately is definitely Dysart Dynamo, who ran an equivalent time figure, certainly based on our data anyway, when he won the Moscow Flyer. He actually ran quicker in his victory that weekend than Min, Duvan and Vator all did prior to going on and win the Supreme itself. Wow. So he's a very, very good horse. And he did it on the bridle as well. I mean, he was not by any way stretch of the imagination fully extended. He's just a very, very good and very fast horse. So it's kind of over to you now, John Bond, to see what he can do. As of yet, as I've spoke a few times on these podcasts, he hasn't run a time figure anywhere near the level that suggests he should be the price he is. I'm not saying he's not going to be capable of doing it, because he just hasn't been in the environment yet to allow him. They've gone very slow first time at Newbury when they dawdled past the line. It was never going to be a strongly run race, and he quickened up at the end. He did exactly the same at Ascot when he took the bull by the horns early when nothing else wanted to go on, when they crawled for the first half a mile. So this will really show us what he's all about. They're going to go a much stronger pace. You've got Donny Boy in there. You've got Richmond Lake in there, bound to go along at a good gallop. So we'll see what he can do. You know, he's going to have to raise his game, I think, again, because I don't think this is by any way, shape or form a pushover. So like I say, let's see what we can do. I wouldn't back him at 4-9. He's just not a 4-9 shot for me. What would I do if I was going to have a bet? I would probably bet without the favourite, because it's just, not a great shape for an each way bet, is it? You've only got one or two places, and we think John Bond is going to finish first or second at the very worst. So I'd probably go Lebowski at the prices. I think he's 20-25-1 in John Bond in the market race, and I'm not sure what price he's without, but on the day there's going to be without the favourite betting. I'd say in and around the 12-14-1 mark. I've been very impressed with his two wins, obviously in much lower company, but he does quicken well. He's got a good cruising speed. I know connections have laid him out for this race specifically, and the softer the ground, the better. And I think a lot of all the other horses, bar Mai Tai, who obviously bumped into Constitution Hill, have all got the same kind of form lines, i.e. northern form that is kind of, open to any kind of improvement. So, yeah, in short, I'll come back John Bond at the price. and Lebowski would probably be the one I'd look for from an each way perspective. Or sorry, without the favourite.
Without the favourite, well, 365 have got a market out. They're the only ones at the moment. You're getting 15-2 about Lebowski without the favourite, but of course that might be very different.
Than that. Yeah,
could be different on the day. That is, they're the first out, so often can. I'm sure that whole market will look very different come 1 o'clock on Saturday. But Lebowski, the one to keep an eye on for Andy, and still Constitution Hill, the one to beat in the Supreme. Ed, were you as impressed, with Dysart Dynamo? Clearly very impressive on the clock. How do you see the Supreme market now, and how do you see this one going? Do you think John Bond can do to Mai Tai what Constitution, his stablemate, did to him?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, I mean, the Supreme picture as a whole is absolutely exhilarating at the moment, isn't it? Obviously, Dysart Dynamo is this very fast cat that's arrived amongst the pigeons now. And does Sagahar go up in trip? Do others kind of swerve the contest, or do we have one of the Titanic tussles in 8 weeks' time? Still a lot of water under the bridge yet. As regards to John Bond, should probably win this if he is what we all believe he is. I mean, a lot's being made of the ground again. Nicky Henderson's come out straight from day one. This horse is a glider. He needs good ground. I mean, his brother Duvan, there was a multiple Grade 1 winner in an absolute bog. So if there's anything to do with family genetics, it might not be too much of a trouble. Yeah, you just want this to end in a tactical, messy affair. And often we're on these shows moaning that some of the trainers cotton wool their horses, don't run them. I actually am generally surprised they are running John Bond in this assignment. I thought they could probably have found something a bit more suitable. Like the Sydney Banks at Huntingdon on a bit of good to soft would probably be in a race I thought they might have gone for. And I know obviously Shishkin he used that race to knee on route to the Supreme. I believe they're going to run either Balco, Coastal, Iron Maximus in that. So it's an embarrassment of riches almost for Nicky Henderson. He's almost got to fit them all in somewhere. I think Constitution Hill's going to, as a novice, run in the contenders hurdle, isn't he, in a couple of weeks' time? So lots to mull over. No real insight other than the only thing that I could see undoing John Bond here would be as if, for whatever reason, this became a slow crawl in a bog and just turned into a bit of a mess. Funny enough, that is pretty much these kind of slow crawls is how we've seen John Bond excelling so far, but not on ground as deep as this. So this could end up being a little bit of a chess match. Wouldn't want it to be, but hopefully he just comes through at flying colours and kind of cements his place in the lineup for the first race on March 15th. Because I don't know about you, but that really is a race. If we can get those big 3 or 4 to post in one piece, I mean, what a race to kick off the Cheltenham Festival.
I couldn't agree more. I'm going to be there on Tuesday and buzzing for that opener. And it'll be interesting if all 3 do go. It'll be one of those markets. It'll be so interesting to follow on the morning of the race as well. You've got 2 Henderson horses from the same yard, 2 powerful owners who, the weight of their money can often tell. And then you've got the Irish thing that Willie Mullins got such an incredible record in the race in recent years as well. Absolutely fascinating. It's probably in my head, even though it's a novice hurdle, the race I'm the most excited for at the festival. Cannot wait. On then to the 2 o'clock, which is the new one, Unibet hurdle, the Grade 2. Tommy's Oscar is the 8-11 favourite ahead of Hunter's Call at 5-2. Navajo Pass 12-1. Rockenden 14s. Global Citizen 25-1. And Garrow de Julie 66s. And he tipped up an 8-11 shot in Shishkin earlier. Tommy's Oscar here at 8-11. It's one to swerve. Anything to get against, or do you think should go in?
Yeah, I think Shishkin's a better 8-11 chance than this thing. I mean, he's been one of the sort of revelations of the whole season, and he's Tommy's Oscar. He's kind of like gone from relatively humble beginnings up north to now be not necessarily champion hurdle contender, but a possible champion hurdle runner. Who would have thought that when he got beat 4 runs ago? I think his mark of 156 slightly flatters him. The handicap has kind of like put him up in increments along the way, but he's been beating the likes like Christopher Wood and Geronimo, and I think his mark's a little bit of a red herring, and he does face here a horse in the shape of Hunter's Call. I think has got better form, and I don't get how they bet 4 to 6, 5-2 here. I'd have these a lot shorter. There's an argument to say Hunter's Call could arguably be favourite in some punters' minds, certainly mine anyway. I thought he ran a brilliant race last time out at Cheltenham. He's a 12-year-old, but for me that was a career high. He's just got outrun by Guard Your Dreams and Song for Someone, having come there absolutely like swinging off the bridle from the second last to the last. Don't think there's anything other than positives to say about his run. I mean, back in 4th was a Cheltenham Festival winner in Heaven Help Us. You got Ballyadam, fifth, Sco Royale back in sixth. So all the way down the line, it was a great race. He bolted up the time before at Bangor on his favoured soft ground. But I think his propensity to get the job done on soft ground, if this is going to be a slog, I think his cruising speed and the fact that he does stay beyond might just be the telling factor here, because I don't think Tommy's Oscar would necessarily want soft or heavy ground. You look at his form, most of it's on good ground. So again, I think the betting's all wrong here. I'm quite confident in tipping Hunter's Call at 5-2 and thinking he'll be a lot shorter on the day. And I'd expect him to certainly put it up to the favourite at the very least.
Hunter's Call, the strong selection there for Andy at 5-2. That's a few firms, Paddy's, Betfair Sportsbook, Better Victor should be shorter on the day, he says. Ed?
Yeah, interesting, isn't it? I might be totally wrong here, but I actually think is Tommy's Oscar now the highest rated GB trained horse entered in the Champion Hurdle.
Wow.
Is now I've offered BHA rated 156 has surpassed Epatante. So yeah, and Hamilton's Tommy's Oscar is flying up into swimming with the shark, shall we say?
It's just not right though, is it? That Ed? I mean,
that's what I'm saying to it. If you were going to, forget all the chit chat, Epatante versus Tommy's Oscar, I'd probably go 1-6 Epatante or 1-8 in a level in a match race. But anyway, it's all perception. I think he's a vulnerable favourite. Call me totally mad, which I've been called a lot worse in my life. But Global Citizen is 25-1. He's another Ben Paulding horse who's lost his way, but he won this race 3 years ago. And you look at the lineup of the horses he duffed up in that field 3 years ago, it's absolute chalk and cheese compared to this. His wind apparently went totally to pot. He's had his second wind operation. That's worked the Oracle. All his form on flat tracks, as we've seen by the fact he won this race 3 years ago. He will go off in the front like a mad thing. And he could just run a few of these into the ground if the wind ups worked. I mean, he's a huge price. He'll probably be a monster price on the exchanges. He would be a token bet. But as I said, it's not one totally devoid of hope, given that he has actually won this race before. So, all in all, I'll take the favourite on. I'm as much as you've got to love the fact the horseshoes improved 32 pounds in the space of a year, I'm just a bit like Andy. I'm slightly sceptical as to the true worth of some of that form. And I'm going to throw out a wild bet, a Hail Mary here on Global Citizen to kind of, roll back the years.
I must say here, I didn't know you were going to tip Global Citizen earlier when I slightly tongue-in-cheek mentioned your Ben Paulding. But either way.
Just one other thing as well, George. I mean, it's interesting that if they thought they got his win right and they now think he's Y handicap, then why are they not going for a really good handicap? They could look at the Betfair Hurdle or something, couldn't they? The fact they're running him in this when he's totally wrong at the weights, if you believe the figures, I mean, if you're getting 22 pounds from Tommy's Oscar, I personally just think the whole thing, something smells here a little bit, and I don't quite believe it all. I just think there's probably put it this way, there's a bit more between the whole lot of them than perhaps official figures lead us to believe. And I think at the prices, I mean, crikey, 8-11, Tommy's Oscar wins. Good luck to Connections. He's been a brilliant horse, but at a big price, Global Citizen for me.
Global Citizen 25-1 with 365 and William Hill. On to our final race we're going to be covering in depth, and it is the Peter Marsh Handicap Hurdle. And we've got Royal Pagaille at 3-1. Favourite, Empire Steel 5-1 with Remastered. Lord Demensil at 8-1. Kaluki 10-1. Lakeview Lad 10-1. Fortescue 12-1. 14-1. Al Nadam, Sam Brown 16-1. Sam's Adventure 18-1. And Ed, you mentioned back when we were talking about Fanny and Destraval in at 159, while we've got Royal Pagaille in here at 163. At the top end of the market.
If I was a proper journalist, I said I would have done my research and I'd have the data in front of me. Maybe Andy's got it. I was trying to get hold of my friend who's a racing historian. I believe if Royal Pagaille could defy a BHA rating of 163 to win this handicap, he'd be in the top 15 all-time weight-carrying performances in handicaps. In national history. In this, I did have the stats and I've lost it. So someone will be able to correct me if I'm totally wrong, or say, it's 11th or something. Anyway, just on a wider point, it's a huge ask to win off 163 in any handicap. Yes, he's in his backyard. Yes, ground's going to be fine, but giving absolute lumps of weight away to some rivals here. And all in all, I just think he's there to be got at. Obviously, he won this race in pretty good fashion off 156 last year. So, to play devil's advocate, a lot of people saying, with £7 more on his back, he would have won last year's contest, but it never always seems to work out like that. And of course, he had a really hard race behind a Plutar last time out. He came back, didn't he, a little bit late. and he's been given time to get over that. All in all, I just think he's making the market his value elsewhere. If, I know it's all ifs and buts and if my auntie had and all that, but if this race was over 2.5 miles, I would make Unadam the favourite for the race. He's 14-1. It's an extended 3 miles and 1 furlongs. That is the big question with the old petrol gauge, because I think last time at the ground, it was soft at Cheltenham, but it wasn't bottomless. This horse wants it like an absolute Amazonian swamp. He's going to get his ground. It's going to be really testing here. And I just think Harry Scouter perhaps made far too much use of him last time out, and he kind of fell away before his stamina kicked in, and he went again. Bridget Andrews on here. I just wonder over this trip. They've only tried it once, and that was in the Ultima when he was ridden really aggressively from the front, and he faded up the hill. Whether Bridget Andrews will just try and smuggle this horse into contention from off the pace, because ground is absolutely spot on for him. The yard are flying, and I'm convinced he's well handicapped off his mark. So I cannot let him go off unbacked at 14-1. It's a huge worry, the trip, but the fact they're trying it again suggests to me they might try some different tactics here, and conditions are going to be absolutely perfect for him. So it's one of those. Yeah, Unadam for me at 14-1, just too big for me to leave alone.
Unadam 14-1, best price with William Hill, as short as 10s elsewhere. Andy?
I just think with these races, it's just suitability and in handling the conditions, isn't it, more than anything else, rather than looking at too much weights and measures. I mean, Royal Pagaille, there's different gravy around here, as we've seen twice. When the ground's been in his favour, that's the key to him. He's just an absolute mudlark. He's a bit like Bristol de Mai, obviously different run style, but give him softer ground or heavy ground at Haydock, he's just unbelievable. And he couldn't have won this race any easier last year. Everyone thought that he couldn't possibly win off 11-10 last year, and he managed to do it. This race, I think, is a good deal better than last year's, by the way. That's why I think there's one or two doubts here than everywhere. Remastered. The tables are turned. He had top weight last time out, and he's got 10-7. Imperial Steel, an improving young horse, maybe wouldn't have won the Roland Merrick, but for falling. We've got Lord de Mesnil, also likes it here at Haydock. He'll go hard from the front, and Kaluki's on the improve. But it all boils down to Royal Pagaille for me. I mean, he's a genuine Grade 1 horse for me when the ground's in his favour. When he ran here early on in the season, they said it was good to soft. A lot of the reports said that was total bogus. It was almost good to firm in places. So he's done remarkably well to try and keep tabs with the Plutard. The rest were out the back tour. So yeah, I'd be more inclined to actually not disagree with Ed, but I'd be more inclined to go with him at 3-1 than I would try and search for value just for the sake of it, because I'm pretty damn sure that Royal Pagaille is going to run his race. So yeah, he'd be the one I'd be looking to back if you gave me a free tenner.
Royal Pagaille, no chance, Andy. Royal Pagaille 3-1, 3-1 with Bet 365. Before we draw this to a close, got to let you guys get off and enjoy your Thursday evenings. Just looking ahead at the racing on Sunday at Lingfield. I know you guys fancy a couple in there. Ed, anything for the guys to look out for?
Yeah, just I like Itchy Feet in the inaugural Fleur de Lis chase. So there's a lot of old horses in there. I think Bristol de Mai's 11. Wayshoot Patient, he's going to run. He's 11. Master Tommy Tucker's 11. A lot of old horses there. Itchy Feet has been running pretty well in defeat this season. Grade 1 winner on soft. Up in trip to 2-6. I think he'll go well. I think he's around 7-1 at the time recording. And actually, a horse I've been against for a long time, I actually think could have his day out, and say day out in the sun, or day out in something anyway. And that's in the race before. And Goshen is in the in that hurdle race. All this chit chat about it. He's right-handed, left-handed, upside down, doesn't want to travel. All his form is on softer, heavy ground. You break it down into layman's terms. Look at his form in the form book. He runs 10 to 12 pound better on softer, heavy. All his wins have come in a swamp. I mean, he won that Kingwell hurdle where they were kind of swimming across the race course. He won it by 22 lengths hard held. I think he's in a race for the first time. He could actually really, have a meaningful impact in. And I think conditions down at Lingfield going to be an absolute bog. He's going to love it. He's up in trip. Yeah, I'll go Goshen and Itchy Feet. I think that's around 6-1 and 7-1. The pair of them. That's my each way double for the Sunday.
Yeah, the weight of your money mate's taken that 6-1 Itchy Feet. I'll run through the markets quickly so that those listening have a kind of an idea of where we are in the races. Bristol de Mai is 11-4 for the Fleur de Lis favourite. Dashel Drasher 7-2, Itchy Feet 5-1, Waiting Patiently 11-2, Master Tommy Tucker 6-1, and then in the Weatherby's Cheltenham Festival betting guide hurdle, we've got Brewing Up a Storm is 11-4, Darva Star 3-1, Dashel Drasher again double entry. We'll have an idea tomorrow where he goes 9-4, Saint Felician 11-2, and Goshen 7-1. That's 7-1 with Skybet and Unibet. Andy.
Yeah, a couple that catch my eye on the Sunday. First and foremost, the 150, the Kazoo Novices Chase. I've been following that form line of witness protection virtually from back in November when it was running. I think there's been about 7 or 8 winners out of that race. In fact, hardly anything is lost. We haven't seen witness protection run since. I don't know what the setback is there, but hopefully he'll be back for Cheltenham perhaps. But Red Rookie comes out of that race. He finished second. He probably would have been Brave Shishkin had he not fallen at Ascot. Then he bolted up the other day at Hereford in a very strongly run race when they went off really quick and his stamina kicked in. He's just a really strong stayer at the trip. 2 miles on heavy ground around Lingfield will be absolutely ideal for him. So Red Rookie in the 150. And the other one I think is very well handicapped potentially in the very last race on the card. You cast your mind back to the race that was won by the mighty Constitution Hill at Sandown, and the horse that made the running that day and the horse that served it up from the front in the end capitulated, but he still didn't run too badly for a horse clearly out of his grade. But Outlaw Peter finished third to Constitution Hill on my time. We know those two are certainly grade 1 horse the winner and maybe a grade 2, grade 3 horse the second. He was well clear of the rest on stamina sapping ground, and he'd run well the time before beyond Ask Me early in a well contested race at Exeter. He's come out of those 2 races with a mark of 117. I mean, I think that's very, very lenient. He's now back up in trip against novices off a very, very tasty looking mark. If there's a better handicapped horse in that race, I haven't come across it. So Outlaw Peter flying the flag for that Constitution Hill form in the last race for the Nichols camp.
Outlaw Peter in the last, and Red Rookie there for Andy. No prices at the moment, so just keep an eye out. They'll be coming out in the next 24 hours or so. Thank you very much, as ever, to both Ed and to Andy for sharing their thoughts on the weekend's racing. Great to be back on the Oddschecker betting show. We'll be doing plenty more of these in the coming weeks, so do subscribe to the Oddschecker YouTube channel. Check your podcast channels as well. They'll all be up there too. And as I mentioned at the top of the show, make sure you look out for Racing Weekly, Oddschecker's brand new show, brand new podcast and YouTube show with Rishi Persad and Sam Turner, looking at all things racing, all the stories up in the lead up to the Cheltenham Festival too. Please download the Oddschecker app for the best odds, the best bookie offers, free bets, place terms, and the best tipsters in the game. Andy's tips straight to the app every morning around 9 a.m. Hopefully we get the matchups, the big tussles that we're hoping for here, previewed by the guys. Please make sure you enjoy the racing. It should be an incredible weekend, and ensure that all your gambling is done responsibly.